park ranger stumbles upon a mountain lion's den, then discovers the heartbreaking truth and risks everything to protect it. The wind howled through the towering pines, their branches swaying like ghostly dancers in the twilight. Mike Thompson, a seasoned park ranger with a weathered face and a soul etched with solitude, stood on the porch of his remote cabin, his gaze lost in the vast expanse of Yellowstone National Park. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, casting long shadows that stretched across the rugged landscape. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth, a familiar fragrance that had become the backdrop to Mike's solitary existence. He took a deep breath, savoring the tranquility of the moment, a stark contrast to the turmoil that churned within him. Years had passed since the tragic accident that had claimed the lives of his wife and daughter, leaving him with a gaping wound that refused to heal. He had sought refuge in the wilderness, finding solace in the rhythms of nature, the silence a balm to his wounded spirit. He had become a guardian of the park, patrolling its trails, protecting its wildlife, his connection to the natural world a lifeline in his sea of grief. His cabin, nestled deep within the park's boundaries, was a sanctuary, a refuge from the memories that haunted him. It was a simple dwelling, built from sturdy logs, with a stone fireplace that crackled with warmth on cold nights. The walls were adorned with maps, wildlife photographs, and mementos of his years spent in the wilderness. Mike stepped back inside, the warmth of the fire welcoming him. He settled into his worn armchair, a book in hand, but his gaze drifted towards the framed photograph on the mantelpiece. It was a picture of his wife, Sarah, her radiant smile a beacon of warmth, and his daughter, Emily, her eyes sparkling with mischief. A wave of grief washed over him, the familiar ache in his chest a constant reminder of his loss. He closed his eyes, the memories flooding back, vivid and painful. The screech of tires, the blinding headlights, the deafening crash. The silence that followed, broken only by his own cries of despair. He opened his eyes, the image of his family etched in his mind. He would never forget them, their love a guiding light in the darkness that enveloped him. He rose from his chair, a renewed sense of determination hardening his gaze. He would honor their memory by protecting the wilderness, by safeguarding the lives of those who ventured into its embrace. He donned his ranger uniform, a symbol of his commitment, his duty. He stepped out into the night, the stars twinkling like diamonds scattered across the velvet sky. He was a guardian of the wild, a protector of the innocent, a man seeking redemption in the solitude of the wilderness. The tranquility of the night was shattered by a sound that echoed through the stillness, the screech of tires, followed by a sickening crunch of metal against metal. Mike, his senses instantly alert, grabbed his radio and rushed out of his cabin. The distant glow of headlights, flickering erratically through the trees, confirmed his fears. An accident. He jumped into his truck, the engine roaring to life, and sped towards the source of the commotion. The narrow mountain road, winding its way through the dense forest, was treacherous even in daylight. Now, shrouded in darkness, it was a death trap. He reached the scene, his headlights illuminating a scene of devastation. A car lay mangled against a towering pine, its front end crushed, steam rising from the crumpled hood. The silence was eerie, broken only by the crackling of the dying engine and the occasional drip of fluids onto the asphalt. Mike approached cautiously, his heart pounding with dread. He peered into the wreckage, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Two figures lay slumped in the front seats, their bodies motionless. He checked for a pulse, but there was none. They were gone. A wave of sadness washed over him, the familiar sting of loss reawakening the pain he had tried so hard to bury. He knew this road, knew its dangers. He had seen accidents like this before, lives cut short in an instant, families shattered by a moment of carelessness. He scanned the wreckage, his eyes searching for any other passengers. His heart skipped a beat when he saw it, a car seat, overturned in the back, its tiny occupant miraculously unharmed. A baby girl, her eyes wide with fear, her cries muffled by the blanket wrapped around her. Mike carefully extracted the child from the wreckage, his touch gentle, his voice soothing. The baby, sensing his presence, reached out with tiny hands, her cries subsiding into soft whimpers. He held her close, his heart aching for the parents she had lost, his protective instincts kicking in. He carried her back to his truck, wrapping her in his jacket to shield her from the cold. He radioed for assistance, his voice trembling as he reported the fatalities and the surviving infant. He then settled into the driver's seat, the baby nestled in his arms, her warmth a stark contrast to the coldness of death that surrounded them. As he waited for the authorities to arrive, he looked down at the child, her innocent eyes gazing up at him with trust. He felt a surge of protectiveness, a fierce determination to shield her from the harsh realities of the world. He would ensure her safety, find her a loving home, a chance at a life that had been cruelly snatched from her parents. He looked out at the dark forest, the wind whispering through the trees, carrying the echoes of the tragedy. He knew this night would forever be etched in his memory, a reminder of the fragility of life, the suddenness of loss, and the unexpected moments of grace that could emerge from the depths of despair. The night was alive with the sounds of the forest, the rustling of leaves, the hooting of an owl, the distant howl of a wolf. Unbeknownst to Mike, another presence was drawn to the scene of the accident, a creature of the shadows, a silent observer with eyes that pierced the darkness. A mountain lion, sleek and powerful, emerged from the thick undergrowth, its senses heightened by the unusual commotion. It cautiously approached the wreckage, its keen sense of smell detecting the scent of blood and fear. It circled the car, its amber eyes taking in the scene, its instincts telling it that something was amiss. It caught the scent of the baby, a faint, sweet aroma that stirred something deep within its primal being. It approached the truck, its movements fluid and silent, its powerful muscles rippling beneath its tawny coat. It peered through the window, its gaze falling upon the infant nestled in Mike's arms. The lion, a creature known for its predatory instincts, its fierce nature, felt an unexpected surge of tenderness. The sight of the vulnerable child, alone and helpless, triggered a primal instinct, a maternal urge to protect and nurture. It circled the truck again, its mind wrestling with conflicting instincts. The scent of blood, the remnants of the tragedy, urged it to hunt, to feed. But the sight of the baby, its soft cries echoing through the night, awakened a different kind of hunger, a hunger to care, to provide. The lion, driven by an inexplicable force, made a decision that defied its nature. It approached the truck, its powerful paws gently tapping on the window. Mike, startled by the sound, looked up, his eyes widening in disbelief as he saw the creature staring back at him. The lion, sensing his fear, lowered its head in a gesture of submission, its amber eyes conveying a message of peace. It then turned and walked away, pausing a few steps later, as if waiting for Mike to follow. Mike, his mind reeling from the encounter, hesitated. He couldn't comprehend what he was witnessing. A mountain lion, a predator feared by all, was seemingly inviting him to follow. Was it a trap, a lure, or something else entirely? He looked down at the baby, her innocent eyes gazing up at him with trust. He couldn't abandon her, couldn't leave her alone in the wilderness. He had to take a chance, had to trust his instincts, had to follow the lion. He stepped out of the truck, his heart pounding in his chest. The lion, watching him intently, turned and walked deeper into the forest, its movements deliberate, as if guiding him. Mike followed, his every sense on high alert, his mind struggling to grasp the surreal situation. They walked for what seemed like an eternity, the lion leading the way, Mike following cautiously, the baby cradled in his arms. The forest was dark, the only light the moon filtering through the canopy of trees. The silence was broken only by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional rustle of leaves. Finally, they reached a clearing, a hidden sanctuary nestled amongst the rocks. The lion led Mike to a cave, its entrance concealed by a curtain of vines. stepped aside, allowing Mike to enter. Inside, the cave was surprisingly warm and dry. A bed of soft moss lined the floor, and a small pool of water shimmered in the moonlight. The lion settled down on the moss, its eyes fixed on Mike, its message clear. This was a safe haven, a place of refuge. Mike, his mind still struggling to comprehend the situation, gently placed the baby on the moss beside the lion. The creature, with surprising tenderness, nudged the child closer, its warmth enveloping the infant. Mike watched in astonishment as the lion, a predator feared by all, transformed into a protector, a guardian of the innocent. He had witnessed a miracle, a testament to the unexpected compassion that could exist in the heart of the wild. Dawn broke over Yellowstone, casting a golden glow over the snow-capped peaks. The first rays of sunlight pierced through the trees, illuminating the scene of the accident. A team of park rangers, alerted by Mike's radio call, arrived at the wreckage, their faces grim as they surveyed the devastation. They carefully extracted the bodies of the deceased couple, their movements respectful, their voices hushed. The lead ranger, a seasoned veteran named Jim, shook his head sadly. "Another tragedy," he muttered. "Another family torn apart." He noticed the empty car seat, its straps dangling limply. "Where's the baby?" he asked, his voice sharp with concern. Mike, who had remained at the scene throughout the night, stepped forward, his face pale, his eyes filled with a mixture of exhaustion and apprehension. "She's gone," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Jim stared at him, his brow furrowed. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" Mike hesitated, unsure how to explain the inexplicable. He couldn't tell them about the lion, about the cave, about the impossible scene he had witnessed. He knew they wouldn't understand, wouldn't believe him. He would be labeled as delusional, perhaps even complicit in the child's disappearance. I don't know," he stammered. "I couldn't find her. Maybe she was thrown from the car." Jim, his suspicions aroused by Mike's evasive answers, ordered a search of the surrounding area. The rangers fanned out, their eyes scanning the undergrowth, their voices calling out the baby's name. But their efforts were in vain. There was no sign of the child. Mike watched them, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he couldn't keep the truth hidden forever. He had to find a way to lead them to the cave, to show them that the baby was safe, that she was being cared for. But how? He decided to retrace his steps, hoping to find some clue, some sign that would lead the rangers to the lion's den. He walked back along the path he had taken the previous night, his eyes scanning the ground, his mind replaying the events that had led him to the cave. He reached the clearing, his heart quickening with anticipation. He scanned the area, searching for any sign of the lion, any indication that the baby was still safe. He noticed a faint trail leading away from the cave, a trail of paw prints and broken twigs. The lion had been out hunting. He followed the trail, his hope growing with each step. He had to find the lion, had to convince it to lead him back to the cave, had to show the rangers that the baby was alive. He walked for what seemed like hours, the trail leading him deeper into the wilderness. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the forest floor. The air was filled with the sounds of birdsong, a stark contrast to the silence of the night before. Finally, he spotted it, the lion. Its sleek form crouched over a freshly killed deer. It looked up as Mike approached, its amber eyes fixed on him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Mike stopped, unsure how to proceed. He had to approach the lion, had to gain its trust, had to convince it to lead him back to the cave. But how could he communicate with a wild creature, a predator known for its ferocity? He took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He raised his hands slowly, palms open, a gesture of peace. He spoke softly, his voice calm and reassuring. "I need your help," he said, his words echoing through the stillness. "The baby, they're looking for her. You have to show me where she is." The lion watched him intently, its eyes searching his face, as if trying to decipher his intentions. Then, to Mike's astonishment, it rose to its feet and turned towards the cave, its message clear. "Follow me, Mike." His heart filled with a mixture of relief and trepidation. Followed the lion, his footsteps quickening as he realized that time was running out. He had to reach the cave before the rangers gave up their search, before they concluded that the baby was lost forever. The lion led Mike back to the cave, its movements swift and purposeful. Mike, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and anxiety, followed closely, his mind racing with thoughts of the baby, of the rangers, of the impossible situation he found himself in. He reached the cave, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. The baby was still there, nestled amongst the soft moss, sleeping peacefully. The lion settled beside her, its massive body a protective barrier, its amber eyes watching Mike with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. Mike knelt beside the child, his hand hovering over her tiny form. He checked her breathing, his touch gentle, his heart swelling with relief. She was safe, unharmed, cared for by a creature he had always considered a predator. He looked at the lion, his gaze filled with a mixture of awe and gratitude. He couldn't comprehend the creature's behavior, its unexpected tenderness towards the human child. Was it instinct, compassion, or something more profound, something that defied explanation? He realized he was facing a moral dilemma. Should he take the baby, return her to the authorities, and risk the lion being labeled a threat, perhaps even euthanized? Or should he trust the creature, leave the baby in its care, and hope for the best? He looked at the child, her innocent face a picture of serenity. He couldn't bear the thought of separating her from the creature that had protected her, that had provided her with warmth and comfort in the face of tragedy. He had to trust the lion, had to believe that its instincts were guiding it, that it would not harm the child. He made a decision. He would stay, would observe, would become a guardian of both the child and the lion. He would provide food and supplies, would ensure their safety, would become a silent observer of this extraordinary bond between human and beast. He left the cave, returning to the scene of the accident. The rangers were still searching, their faces etched with worry, their voices filled with desperation. Mike approached them, his demeanor calm, his voice steady. "I found some tracks," he said, leading further into the woods. "I think she might have wandered off." Jim, his eyes narrowed with suspicion, looked at Mike. "You sure about this, Mike?" he asked, his voice laced with doubt. "I'm sure," Mike replied, his gaze unwavering. "I'll follow the tracks, see if I can find her." Jim hesitated, then nodded. "Be careful, Mike," he said, "and keep us updated." Mike turned and walked back into the forest, his heart pounding with a mixture of relief and apprehension. He had bought himself some time, a chance to protect the lion and the child, a chance to witness the unfolding of this extraordinary story. He returned to the cave, bringing with him supplies from his cabin: blankets, food, water. He settled down at a safe distance, observing the lion and the baby, his mind filled with wonder and a growing sense of responsibility. He was no longer just a park ranger, a guardian of the wilderness. He was now a guardian of a miracle, a protector of an unlikely bond that defied all expectations. The days that followed were a blur of activity and anxiety. Mike, driven by a sense of duty and a growing fascination with the unfolding events, divided his time between his cabin and the lion's den. He maintained a careful balance, ensuring the safety and well-being of both the child and the lion while keeping his secret hidden from the outside world. He would venture into town for supplies, his trips carefully timed to avoid suspicion. He would purchase formula, diapers, and baby food, his purchases raising eyebrows amongst the locals who knew him as a solitary ranger with no family. He would deflect their inquiries with vague explanations, his mind always focused on his hidden mission. He would then return to the cave, his backpack laden with provisions. He would observe the lion and the child from a safe distance, marveling at their interaction. The lion, initially wary of his presence, gradually grew accustomed to his visits, accepting him as a provider, a non-threatening presence in their secluded world. He watched as the lion cared for the baby, its maternal instincts defying its predatory nature. It would gently nudge the child with its nose, its rough tongue licking away any dirt or debris. It would curl its massive body around the infant, providing warmth and protection. It would even hunt for small animals, bringing them back to the cave as offerings, a gesture that both touched and terrified Mike. He would leave the supplies at the entrance of the cave, retreating to a safe distance as the lion retrieved them. He would then watch as the lion fed the baby, its massive paws carefully holding the bottle, its amber eyes filled with a tenderness that belied its fearsome reputation. He began to feel a connection to the lion, a sense of kinship with this creature that had defied its nature to protect an innocent life. He named her Luna, a fitting name for the creature that had brought light into the darkness of his own life. He would talk to Luna, his voice soft, his words filled with gratitude and admiration. He would tell her about his own lost family, about the pain he had carried for so long, about the solace he found in witnessing her extraordinary compassion. Luna would listen, her head tilted, her eyes fixed on him with an intensity that seemed to penetrate his soul. He felt understood, accepted, even loved by this wild creature, a creature that had shown him a depth of compassion he had never thought possible. He knew he was walking a tightrope, his secret a dangerous burden. But he couldn't abandon Luna and the child, couldn't betray the trust that had been placed in him. He was their guardian, their protector, their link to the world outside their hidden sanctuary. He was living a double life, a ranger by day, a secret keeper by night. He was a man caught between two worlds, the world of humans and the world of wild animals. A man who had found solace and redemption in the most unexpected of circumstances. The idyllic existence in the hidden cave couldn't remain secret forever. The outside world, with its relentless pursuit of information and insatiable hunger for news, began to encroach upon Mike's carefully constructed sanctuary. The disappearance of the baby had become a national sensation. News channels broadcast the story around the clock. Their reporters camped out in the small town near Yellowstone, their cameras capturing every detail of the ongoing search and rescue operation. The missing child's face was plastered on posters and billboards, her name a constant reminder of the tragedy that had gripped the nation. Mike, watching the news reports from his isolated cabin, felt a growing sense of unease. The search parties were expanding their efforts, their helicopters buzzing overhead, their dogs sniffing through the undergrowth, their voices echoing through the once peaceful wilderness. He knew it was only a matter of time before they stumbled upon his secret. He intensified his efforts to protect Luna and the child. He would venture out only under the cover of darkness, his movements stealthy, his senses heightened. He would leave false trails, diverting the search parties away from the cave, his knowledge of the terrain his greatest asset. He would also spend more time at the cave, ensuring Luna and the child had ample supplies. He would play with the baby, his heart melting at her infectious laughter, his paternal instincts awakened by her innocent gaze. He would talk to Luna, sharing his worries, his fears, his hopes for their future. One day, as he was returning from a supply run, he noticed a group of rangers setting up camp near his cabin. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. They were getting closer, their presence a threat to his carefully constructed world. He retreated into the shadows, his mind racing. He had to warn Luna, had to prepare her for the possibility of discovery. He had to devise a plan, a way to protect them both from the inevitable intrusion. He reached the cave, his voice hushed as he explained the situation to Luna. The lion listened intently, her amber eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the campfire. She seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, her maternal instincts heightened by the impending threat. Mike spent the night in the cave, his sleep fitful, his dreams filled with images of flashing lights, barking dogs, and accusing voices. He awoke to the sound of Luna growling, her body tense, her eyes fixed on the entrance of the cave. He peered through the vines, his heart sinking as he saw a group of rangers approaching. They were armed, their faces grim, their voices echoing through the stillness. "This is it," he whispered to Luna, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to face them." He stepped out of the cave, his hands raised in surrender. The Rangers, startled by his sudden appearance, trained their weapons on him. "Don't shoot!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the clearing. "The baby's in there. She's safe." The Rangers lowered their weapons, their faces filled with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. They cautiously approached the cave, their flashlights illuminating the interior. Mike watched as they gasped in astonishment, their eyes widening as they saw Luna curled around the sleeping child. The sight was both incredible and terrifying, a testament to the unexpected compassion that could exist in the heart of the wild. The clearing buzzed with a tension thicker than the morning mist clinging to the pines. The Rangers, their initial shock giving way to a mix of awe and apprehension, cautiously approached the cave entrance. Mike stood between them and Luna, his heart pounding like a drum against his ribs. He knew this was the moment of truth, the culmination of weeks spent balancing his duty as a ranger with the primal instinct to protect this unlikely family. "Easy now, Luna," he murmured, his voice a low rumble meant to soothe the lioness. He could feel her muscles coiled beneath her tawny fur, her amber eyes narrowed, fixed on the approaching men. The baby, oblivious to the tension, stirred in her sleep, nuzzling closer to Luna's warmth. Jim, the lead ranger, stepped forward, his expression a mix of caution and wonder. "Mike," he began, his voice low and steady, "what in God's name is going on here?" Mike took a deep breath, steeling himself for the explanations, the justifications, the inevitable disbelief. "It's a long story, Jim," he said, his voice weary. "But the baby, she's safe. Luna's been taking care of her." He recounted the events of the past weeks, the accident, the lion's unexpected compassion, his decision to protect them both. The Rangers listened, their initial skepticism gradually replaced by a grudging acceptance of the impossible truth unfolding before their eyes. But the situation was far from resolved. The baby needed to be returned to her family, to the world she belonged to. And Luna, a wild predator, could not remain in such close proximity to humans. The potential for danger, however slim, was too great. "Mike," Jim said, his voice grave, "we have to take the baby. And Luna, she needs to be relocated." Mike felt a surge of protectiveness for the lioness, for the child she had adopted as her own. "No," he said, his voice firm. "You can't take her. Luna won't hurt the baby. She's been caring for her, protecting her." "I understand, Mike," Jim replied, "but we can't risk it. It's not safe. It's not natural." A tense standoff ensued, the Rangers hesitant to approach the cave, Mike standing firm, his body shielding Luna and the child. The air crackled with uncertainty, the fate of the unlikely family hanging in the balance. Mike knew he couldn't fight the inevitable. The baby belonged with her own kind, and Luna belonged in the wild. But he was determined to ensure their safety, to find a way to resolve the situation without harm coming to either of them. He looked at Luna, her eyes filled with a mixture of trust and apprehension. He knew he had to convince her to relinquish the child, to trust him to ensure her safety. He knelt beside her, his voice soft, his words filled with reassurance. "Luna," he whispered, "I know you love her, but she needs to go back to her family. I promise I'll protect you. I won't let them hurt you." The lioness looked at him, her amber eyes searching his face, as if trying to decipher his intentions. Then, to Mike's relief, she nudged the baby towards him, a low growl rumbling in her chest, a sound that conveyed both sadness and acceptance. Mike gently lifted the child, his heart aching for the separation he was about to enforce. He looked at Luna one last time, his gaze filled with gratitude and a promise. "Thank you," he whispered. "I won't forget you." He turned and walked towards the Rangers, the baby cradled in his arms. He felt Luna's eyes following him, her presence a silent guardian, her love a testament to the unexpected compassion that could exist in the heart of the wild. The rangers, their initial apprehension replaced by a cautious curiosity, gathered around Mike and the baby. The child, awakened by the commotion, blinked her eyes, her gaze settling on the unfamiliar faces surrounding her. A collective gasp arose from the group as they took in the sight of the infant, healthy and unharmed, after weeks of presumed loss. Jim, his expression softening, gently took the baby from Mike's arms. He examined her carefully, his trained eye searching for any signs of injury or distress. Finding none, he smiled, a wave of relief washing over him. "She's perfect," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "A miracle." The other rangers echoed his sentiments, their voices filled with wonder and gratitude. They had witnessed something extraordinary, something that defied all expectations, something that challenged their understanding of the natural world. Mike, watching their reaction, felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. He had protected Luna and the child, had facilitated their unlikely bond, had witnessed a miracle unfold in the heart of the wilderness. But now, it was time to let go, to return the child to her rightful place, to allow Luna to return to her wild existence. He explained the situation to the rangers, his voice calm, his words carefully chosen. He emphasized Luna's maternal instincts, her protective nature, her reluctance to harm the child. He pleaded for her safety, urging them to relocate her rather than euthanize her. The rangers listened, their initial skepticism giving way to a grudging respect for the lioness and the man who had protected her. They agreed to Mike's request, promising to relocate Luna to a remote area of the park, far from human contact. A sense of closure settled over the clearing as the rangers prepared to depart. Mike watched as they carried the baby towards their vehicles, her cries echoing through the trees, a reminder of the life she was returning to, the family that awaited her. He turned towards the cave, his heart heavy with the knowledge that he was saying goodbye to Luna, to the creature that had shown him such unexpected compassion. He entered the cave, his voice soft as he spoke to the lioness. "Luna," he whispered, "it's time for me to go. They're taking the baby back to her family." The lioness looked at him, her amber eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. She nuzzled her head against his hand, a gesture of gratitude and farewell. Mike knelt beside her, his hand stroking her fur, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for everything." He rose and walked out of the cave, his footsteps heavy, his heart filled with a bittersweet mixture of loss and gratitude. He looked back one last time, his gaze lingering on the lioness, her form silhouetted against the dim light, her presence a reminder of the extraordinary bond they had shared. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing through the stillness, his heart carrying the weight of a memory that would forever shape his life, a memory of an unlikely alliance, a testament to the unexpected compassion that could exist in the heart of the wild. The ranger's departure left a void in the clearing, a silence that amplified the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds. Mike stood alone, his gaze fixed on the cave entrance, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. Relief for the baby's safe return warred with a deep sadness at the impending separation from Luna. He knew the rangers would keep their word, relocating Luna to a remote part of the park. But the thought of her being tranquilized, captured, and transported filled him with unease. He had witnessed her gentleness, her maternal instincts, her capacity for connection. He couldn't bear the thought of her being treated like a dangerous animal, a threat to be contained. He decided to stay, to witness the relocation, to ensure Luna's safety. He wanted to be there to reassure her, to let her know he hadn't abandoned her. He settled down at a safe distance from the cave, his eyes fixed on the entrance, his senses alert. He waited, the minutes stretching into hours, the sun climbing higher in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the forest floor. Finally, he heard the sound of approaching vehicles, the rumble of engines echoing through the trees. A team of wildlife specialists arrived, their trucks equipped with cages and tranquilizer guns. Mike's heart sank as he watched them approach the cave, their faces grim, their movements cautious. He stepped forward, his voice firm as he addressed the lead specialist. "I want to be there," he said. "When you relocate her, I want to make sure she's treated with respect." The specialist, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor, nodded in understanding. "Of course," she replied. "We appreciate your concern. We'll do everything we can to minimize her stress." They approached the cave, their movements slow and deliberate. Mike watched as they carefully administered the tranquilizer, their voices soothing, their touch gentle. Luna, sensing their presence, growled softly, her eyes fixed on Mike, a silent plea for reassurance. Mike stepped closer, his voice soft as he spoke to the lioness. "It's all right, Luna," he whispered. "They're just going to move you to a new home, a place where you'll be safe." Luna, her body growing heavy with the effects of the tranquilizer, nuzzled her head against his hand, a final gesture of trust and affection. Mike felt tears prick his eyes as he watched her succumb to the sedative, her powerful body slumping to the ground. The specialists carefully lifted Luna onto a stretcher, their movements gentle, their voices hushed. They carried her to one of the trucks, securing her in a spacious cage. Mike watched as they drove away, his heart heavy with the knowledge that he was saying goodbye to a creature that had touched his life in ways he never could have imagined. He returned to his cabin, the silence echoing the emptiness he felt. He knew he had done the right thing, that Luna was better off in the wild, away from the dangers of human contact. But he couldn't deny the sadness that lingered, the void left by the absence of the creature that had shown him such unexpected compassion. He looked out at the vast wilderness, the sun setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He knew Luna was out there, somewhere in that vast expanse, her spirit free, her legacy living on in his heart. He had witnessed a miracle, a testament to the interconnectedness of all living things, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, compassion and love could bloom in the most unexpected places. He had been a guardian of the wild, a protector of an unlikely bond, a witness to the extraordinary power of nature to heal and redeem. The story of the baby rescued by a mountain lion spread like wildfire, capturing the hearts and imaginations of people across the nation. News channels replayed the footage of the infant being carried out of the cave, her tiny hand grasping the finger of a ranger, her eyes wide with wonder. The image became a symbol of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unexpected compassion that could exist in the animal world. Mike, thrust into the spotlight, became an unlikely hero. Reporters clamored for interviews, eager to hear his first-hand account of the extraordinary events. He recounted the story with humility, emphasizing Luna's role, her maternal instincts, her gentle nature. He deflected any praise directed at him, insisting that he was merely a witness to a miracle, a guardian of an unlikely bond. He used his newfound platform to advocate for wildlife conservation, emphasizing the importance of understanding and respecting animals, even predators like Luna. He shared his insights into animal behavior, dispelling myths and misconceptions, promoting coexistence rather than fear. The story had a profound impact on the community surrounding Yellowstone. The initial fear and apprehension towards mountain lions gradually gave way to a grudging respect, an acknowledgement of their vital role in the ecosystem. The incident sparked a renewed interest in wildlife conservation, with increased funding for research and education programs. The baby, reunited with her extended family, became a symbol of resilience and hope. Her story touched the hearts of people across the nation, reminding them of the preciousness of life and the unexpected miracles that could emerge from tragedy. Mike, though initially uncomfortable with the attention, gradually embraced his role as an advocate for wildlife. He continued to work as a park ranger, his passion for his job reignited by the extraordinary events he had witnessed. He became a sought-after speaker, sharing his story with schools, community groups, and conservation organizations. He even wrote a book about his experience, a poignant memoir that detailed his journey from grief and isolation to a renewed sense of purpose and connection to the natural world. The book became a bestseller, translated into multiple languages, its message of compassion and understanding resonating with readers worldwide. Mike's life had been irrevocably changed by his encounter with Luna and the baby. He had found redemption in the heart of the wilderness, his grief replaced by a profound appreciation for the interconnectedness of all living things. He had become a guardian of the wild, a protector of the innocent, a voice for the voiceless. He had learned that compassion and love could bloom in the most unexpected places, that even predators could exhibit tenderness, that humans and animals could forge bonds that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. He had discovered that miracles could happen, that hope could emerge from tragedy, that life, in all its complexity and beauty, was a gift to be cherished. Years passed, seasons turning in their relentless cycle, painting the landscape of Yellowstone with the vibrant hues of life and death, renewal and decay. Mike, his hair streaked with silver, his face etched with the wisdom of time and experience, continued his solitary existence in the wilderness, his heart forever touched by the echoes of the wild. He remained a guardian of the park, his footsteps tracing familiar paths, his eyes scanning the horizon for signs of life, his ears attuned to the whispers of the wind. He patrolled the trails, ensuring the safety of visitors, educating them about the delicate balance of the ecosystem, sharing his knowledge and passion for the natural world. He often returned to the clearing where he had first encountered Luna, the memory of that extraordinary time a constant companion. He would sit by the cave entrance, his gaze lost in the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees, his mind replaying the events that had shaped his life. He would recall the baby's cries, Luna's gentle touch, the ranger's astonishment, the nation's fascination. He would remember the fear, the uncertainty, the hope, the love that had blossomed in the heart of the wilderness. He would think of Luna, her spirit forever etched in his memory. He imagined her roaming free in the remote reaches of the park, her powerful body gliding through the undergrowth, her amber eyes reflecting the moonlight, her presence a reminder of the wildness that resided within him. He had learned to live with the echoes of the wild, the memories that haunted and healed, the lessons that shaped his understanding of the world. He had found peace in the solitude of the wilderness, his grief transformed into a profound appreciation for the interconnectedness of all living things. He had become a guardian of the wild, a protector of the innocent, a voice for the voiceless. He had embraced his role as an advocate for wildlife, his words carrying the weight of experience, his stories inspiring others to appreciate and protect the natural world. He had found redemption in the heart of the wilderness, his life a testament to the unexpected miracles that could emerge from tragedy. He had learned that compassion and love could bloom in the most unexpected places, that even predators could exhibit tenderness, that humans and animals could forge bonds that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. He had discovered that hope could emerge from despair, that life, in all its complexity and beauty, was a gift to be cherished. He had learned to listen to the whispers of the wild, to find solace in the rhythms of nature, to embrace the echoes of the past as a guide to the future. He was a man of the wilderness, his heart forever touched by the wild, his spirit forever connected to the creatures that roamed the land. He was a guardian, a protector, a storyteller, his life a testament to the enduring power of compassion, love, and the enduring spirit of the wild.